Well, friends, this episode is for Ratosaurus, but it's also for first viewership on Patreon and then to the public. This is technically episode -1 of the Unnamed Stars Without Numbers campaign that we'll be doing. There will be another episode of this in the new year, so it's currently Thanksgiving week 2022. And if you never hear from us again, then I guess the party didn't keep it all together until the new year. Someone dropped out or something. But I think we're all ready and eager to go ahead with this Unnamed Stars Without Numbers show. We're going to make characters tonight. We have 1 hour. We have 53 minutes. Because after 53 minutes, I'm going to go do a Pokemon game with Cotton and Pondo. So we have 53 minutes to at least start making characters. Why are we only doing the first part of a session 0? It's because we need to have an idea what the characters look like so Rad can make them so that you can see them on the eventual overlay, which I'm still assembling. It's really easy to find clean looking sci-fi UI frames and all that stuff. I'm trying to find something broke down and busted with like a flickering, like a halogen light or something that's like, and that is that's not pre-built. I think I might have to get that made to order, and I don't know who to order it from because Twitter is dying. Everyone has abandoned ship. So let's talk about, even though we're making characters, we still need to talk very high level about the campaign before we ever do the real session 0. You are ship salvager crew. 2 of you have worked together for a while. You came across a salvage that you weren't able to bring home. It was too big and too technically advanced. In the process, you managed to snatch some fancy data or maybe a device that you could sell in order to help pay off your debt. And you brought home a true AI, which you have given a frame to and refurbished. It has loyally joined you as a crew member, and you're attempting to pay off the debt on your ship. Eventually, obviously, your true AI companion would like to go back to his ship and get it working as well. So some things to keep in mind when we're making our characters. You need to, not only do you need to have a skill set that fits people who fly a ship through space and ship salvage, you need to have a reason that you've left home, because going out into space is very difficult to do. So originally I said there were only about 1,000 ships, but because there's a major shipyard in the sector, there are more like 10,000 ships. But given the fact that there are almost 3 trillion inhabitants, 10,000 ships with an average crew of around 30 people means that there are not a lot of people in space. Now, sure, there's space stations and orbital habitats and all that stuff, but 99% of the population lives on a planet and will never leave it, which makes me question what happened to the 2 of you that set you on a path where you fly around and either tow parking violators or like people who are way past their lease. You know what I mean? Like tows and ship salvage, like either ships that were destroyed in a battle or like really old stuff from the Scream 600 years ago. Like that's where the big money is, which is why it's so hard to find it. So yeah, let's go around and talk about our high level ideas, and then we're gonna try to follow the character creation thing and then immediately throw it out, because most of you already have your characters partially built and one of you is a true AI, so you follow completely different rules. But yeah, let's do brief introductions of who our characters might be. Some of you have more than one character, so what's your ideas, guys? Ludeman, I'm looking at you. Yeah.
I had rolled up a couple just for fun, just to kind of enjoy and like see how the generation systems in the system work out.
So are you not using one of those?
No, I'm happy. Like I liked the ideas that they came up with. Honestly, like, so the 2 that came up for me were a psychic with scholar background and a partial expert, partial warrior with a criminal background. And both of those seemed like they could be pretty fun and could easily sort of like launch into, like with the psychic background, right, probably comes from more of the like educated, right, the psychic authority sort of planet and that background. And maybe I think I had scholar with that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense because it's you know, a university. It's a pretty big one.
Yeah, and going something like that route, and then maybe he gets like some like crackpot crazy idea moment, right? And kind of gets kicked out because he gets obsessed with this random like primitive planet or something, like, right, like with star readings or something that wind up leading him on a wild goose chase. That maybe that's the thing that takes us and we find Kane's ship, right? There's some like 400-year-old like observations somewhere that he puts on like a giant board with yarn and like conspiracy style, and it's like these various planets all documented points of light flashes somewhere, and puts it together and finds some ancient battlefield, right, for the Imago Day or something like that. I could see.
Yes. So what I was thinking is that you know, it's pretty rare for a ship to have the advanced survey sensors, right? And I feel like maybe there was a situation where there's a planet that's like tidally locked with its moon. So like the moon always, it's like our moon. It always faces the same face towards our planet, right? Which means that the dark side is always pointed away from it. There would be some situation where a stellar object was like always pointed away from what's called a arrival zone. So like some star systems, when you show up, you arrive from whatever direction you were coming from, although it's drill space. So what direction you're coming from is totally random. And you'll arrive at like a bubble around the edge of the system. But most places have what's called a arrival zone, which is like a pre-designated area. You just like will drop out in the same 1,000 by 1,000 kilometer box every single time, no matter how you try to jump into the system. I was thinking that maybe it'd be like on the far side of the sun on like a 900-year rotation, and you're like the first person since the Scream to like head back there and check the dark side and run your advanced sensors, and you're like, oh, there's actually something back here. Like, interesting.
Yeah, I'm into it.
I was also thinking maybe it would be in the system with a black hole instead of a sun, because that's fun. There could always be a black hole sun, but that's also quite dangerous. Yeah, so that's your psychic character.
Mm-hmm.
You had some other stuff maybe with them, because I jumped in here and interrupted you.
No, that was the main thing. The only other thing I could think of is I remember in the lore for that the psychic authority like planet itself, there was something about a like giant capybara.
Yeah, Capybara Maximus. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, if he winds up getting pilot somehow, then that's why he has it, because he used to ride the capybaras.
Excellent. He's a capybara rancher, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's something that they make all of the kids at the Psionic Authority do, is like they
like therapy.
Well, it could be like teaching them respect for the people around them, because the Psionic Authority has a big like ethics is a huge part of their course. Like, you know, they don't want to train people who grow up to become terrible psionic assassins that are feared by everyone, and then there's public outrage on a planet, and they're like, you know, like some psionic assassin killed 900 people and then disappeared by teleporting. We'd better, you know, we got to get these psionics under control. It's time to go land on Lita and deal with them. Like, that's something they don't want to happen. So they're like, you should use your powers for good. But what is good? Let's talk about empathy. You're 6 years old. We're going to give you your first pet. It is a full-sized horse-shaped capybara.
Huge extension on the care for this egg for the weekend with your partner thing.
I never had to do one of those, but I've seen it in media so often it feels super cringe. Nowadays, they're like, send a picture to ensure that that doll is okay. And I'm like, Jesus. Like, smartphones have made this weird. Like, I have a baby. I will take a picture of it tucked into a bed, I guess.
Feels awkwardly like we've crossed from a caretaker course to learning how to give people proof of life.
Regular check-ins, like, yeah.
Just in case that design didn't work out for you, you had a second character rolled up. This one I don't know anything about.
It was, yeah, mostly just in kind of enjoying thinking through like rolling the backgrounds randomly and then trying to make up the story for how you could get there, right? So the criminal one, my thought was essentially there's that world that's like trillions of people, right, on the run somehow. Maybe he stole something, right, and that sort of kicked him, got him, you know, the impetus to get him off planet, so to speak. I think that was actually where Dunamis, you were saying you wanted to also be from, right? Something to do with like hyperboat racing, right?
Yes, exactly. I basically was like, oh, that sounds like pod racing, but more dangerous. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. And that kind of felt like, how the two of them would meet up essentially with that background is somewhere through that realm, like on the run, maybe, has obviously some technical skills, winds up getting on your hyperboat crew or something and tags along to the next adventure.
Just to be clear, hyperboats are not spaceships. They are terrestrial water vehicles.
Right, I know.
They're watercraft. Okay, just making sure.
Super dangerous boating.
Not this hyperboat.
So, for the folks at home, a hyperboat is like a hydrofoil, but its motor is powered by spike drive energy. So when you get a bunch of like spike drive energy is not meant to be used around each other, right? Like you're not supposed to put two drives in the same ship, and like two ships are not supposed to operate their drives next to each other. You like send boarding shuttles over specifically to prevent that. Hyperboat racing is they don't have the drives on them, but they have batteries that store the extra dimensional energy of the drive. And so like probability gets really weird when multiple boats are going very fast and near each other, and like quantum tunneling effects happen where boats will suddenly like leap 20-30 feet in front of another boat, or just like skip sideways and you'd be like, oh, okay, I guess reality is just unfolding around me. Or you'll be on the boat and like you'll flip a penny and it'll land edge on, like, straight up and down. You'd be like, that's nearly impossible. Weird stuff happens around hyperboat races.
Taking advantage of that.
Yes, but it's totally random.
I imagine it's like you're the glitch in Wreck-It Ralph, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. Penelope. Yes. Speaking about hyperboat racers, what characters do you have to bring to us?
So unlike Ludeman, I didn't roll any yet because I just can't wait to see how this session was going to go with the 3d6 determining basically altering what I had planned.
It's wild. So, I love 3d6. You get weird stuff.
And especially when it's like right in order, right? Like strength, dex, constitution, like who knows. So the thing I will say that gave me these ideas, if you go with that system, I think it lets you like pick 114 that you can place somewhere.
Yeah. Gives you a safety.
In mind, I was like, okay, well, no matter how bad everything else is, I kind of want to make a techie guy, like someone who can be a mix of piloting, mix of good at scrapping, randomly assembling things, putting stuff together. So my thinking was he's a bit of a scrapper. He doesn't quite remember how he got on the world he's on. I think we were thinking Thord,
yeah. That's where the hyperboat races are.
Yes, okay, that's it. So he's kind
of one of the few planets that has open water.
So he's kind of a bit of a scrapper. He helps take stuff apart, and he eventually gets really good at identifying like the valuable pieces. And in his spare time, he really enjoys watching these races, and his goal is to try to build his own boat and try to compete in the races. I haven't fully fleshed out how he then would go from trying to build his own boat, but to suddenly in space. But he's thinking that because he's so good at taking apart the pieces, noticing the valuable pieces, wouldn't it make more sense for him to go get the scrap to bring back instead of just taking it apart once it gets on planet? And so he starts venturing out more in that sense.
There's probably a cost issue, right? Like you need to bring in big money.
Yeah. And I have some other like background ideas based on how the dice roll overall, but depending on like why he could be leaving, it could be related to like his parents or something like that. But I didn't get too far down because once I have an idea, I tend to write a lot about it, and then the dice could just change it. So I think tonight will kind of be that. All right, now we can cement some of this stuff.
Agreed.
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a second. Kane, you decide to play a weird character. Let's go ahead and talk about that.
Psionic unbraked AI?
No, absolutely not.
I've decided to play a true AI, a very old one, created before the Scream, and after earning money as a ship for his creators for 100 years, volunteered to join an Imago Dei fleet to go defend humanity from the horrors of the unknown. And he did not spend a whole lot of time in that system before, for reasons that will probably be more interesting later. He ended up fleeing the system in a crippled ship that he basically ended up hibernating in, waiting for it to be found. So honestly, I think something that would be interesting is after the ship systems were failing and he couldn't keep things running and he went to hibernation, he has no recollection of how long he was floating. And he did not intentionally land on the dark side of that object. So he doesn't know how he got there. So two of his driving goals are going to be to, one, get what he feels is his body back, which as he's navigating this post-Scream world, he understands is going to take significant time and resources. And for two, to analyze his old databanks to try to figure out how he got where he is, and to try to be able to answer the question of whether or not there's any other AI from that fleet that could be rescued. Just one of those, like, super lofty goals that are, well,
what I like about your goal is that just replacing the spike drive is 1 million credits. Like, that's your start. You could buy a new ship just getting the engine working. Forget armor, computers, navigation, any sort of support systems, the computer data systems. Like, before you touch any of that, you have a $7 million repair bill, but just getting it so it can take off from the moon is $1 million to start with. And it will as a long-term motivation. Yes, the Drive 5, you'll have to have it like custom made. Like, they don't make Drive 5s commercially. The only ship that has a level 5 drive that is known is the Ferry. And they normally swap it out for a level 3 drive until, like, the level 5 drive is only brought out in times of war because it requires retooling the entire ship so it can fit it again.
I also think it'll be interesting it was something that we kind of brought up, was how alien is this AI going to be to people?
Yeah.
And I had a couple thoughts on that. One of them is based on, like, what shell we end up with and whether or not it was a shell that was recovered in the wreck or a shell that you found a core and just stuck it into to see if it was functional. And I also think that I also think it'll be interesting for him to connect with or decide which other AI in the system he plans to meet or not, and which ones he ends up meeting regardless.
So for the folks at home, there is a list of the 5 true AIs that are known and all of the major planetary factions. It will be in the description section below, and I'll be adding things of interest. I think I added the list of, like, pre-made ships, like standard ships. You could go to the shipyard for Finana Fleet Systems and just be like, I want one of those, like, and then be like, yep, we got one on the lot for you.
Something else that I was thinking about was, regardless of just the shell, I saw in the book that there's lots, well, maybe not lots, but there's a bunch of different like hologram technology bits going on. So I was curious as to whether or not when outfitting our ship for AI integration, if it would include hologram emitters, so he could have his own, like, presence to speak to people when he's not in his armature.
I think so.
On the ship.
Yeah.
Cortana-ish.
Yeah. So
I mean, this man told us he wanted to do the Andromeda series from back in the day.
That's true. Yeah, I'm interested to see, like, how our character, or, like, to feel out how our characters actually, like, treat you, right? Like, initially and over time, right? Like, do we sort of have this, like, view of, like, sure, you're, like, hundreds of years old, but, like, you're just waking up. Maybe we feel like we know more what's going on in the universe than you. Like, are we my two dadsing you, or, like?
So the thing is, he's
everything.
He's essentially a 100-year-old person. He has a human with a 1-level processor and a totally bricked AI. He is essentially a 100-year-old person. I was going to say old man, but 100-year-old person, so without the memory loss problems. So he's got more experience than you about things, and he knows how to do things, but also he knows absolutely nothing about 600 years later. Like, this is all totally new.
And I think at least at the beginning, he plans to pass things off as, oh, I suffered some massive data corruption and I don't remember hardly anything. I just have this strange sentimental connection to this ship that I hope we can fix someday.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as part of his wanting to be with the crew and trying to convince a level of cooperation with the crew of this merchant ship, is the idea of, if you let me stay here and we earn money and we restore that ship, in exchange for the rest of your natural lives, I will bring you on board as crew, and we will continue to operate as we have in a larger ship.
Just picturing you as our secret helm memory core. We just don't know it yet.
I mean, he doesn't know yet either. He needs to recover the data on his ship.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff, because one of those processing extenders and stuff seem like a great plot way to go, oh yeah, there's a bunch of information in there I cannot access. I can't wirelessly connect to another system. So till we get power up and I get back in it, there's things that I might learn if we can get a new drive and power core in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that storyline. Like figuring out sort of from your end how much you want to trust us, right? And with what?
Yeah.
So
like, you've already thought out like the goals that you want for your character. Yeah. I mean, I think you guys will agree in the chat. I flip-flopped as I read each chapter in the rule book. Like without reading the mech section, I was like, I want a mech. I just want to get a mech. Then I read the mech section. I was like, it's like being in a mech and disabling your ejection system.
Yeah, well, that's the fun part about the system, I think, is that like regardless of how we roll out our characters, right, the skills and the things like that you build out with them really kind of define it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So on a mechanical level, it seemed like the primary idea that I was going with was going full true AI, and focusing on programming, which seemed to make sense. His directive for his creation and his time and his natural inclinations are to be a ship.
Okay, you wanted to tell everyone. All right. Your code directive, be a ship. All right.
So there's some things that, at least the way that the AI rules are written, that I don't have. Like if I wanted to assess the damage to the ship, I'm not fixing anything, but I also, that's something that I wouldn't have to roll to know. Just
you just damage report it. Yeah.
Which I think will be useful. So I was thinking of building my skills around that. But if there's stuff like if you want to be a really good pilot, I'm not going to be a better pilot than you. I mean, that's just, I imagine that for like ship stuff, it'll be one of those like, I can do everything on the ship, right, but anybody that wants to do those roles is going to be better at it. So there'll always be that preference to like, you're on board, well, you're flying because you're a better pilot.
I don't know, with a party of 3, I think we should duplicate all of our skills and compete.
So I'm going to share a piece of solemn wisdom with you. You may absolutely want to have an expert be your navigator. Because if you've looked at the spike drive jump issues, unless your navigator has the Starfare focus, and even then, if you want to take a risky jump, you still want to be able to get that reroll. Like the failure states for failed spike drive jumps are bad. Like I had one on one of my shows for Sons of Gold, and they ended up misjumping like 5 hexes, like across the gulf. They could not jump back over. Like their spike drive could not get them back over it. And so I was like, all right, well, the original storyline was like, you guys are freight traders. Now you are trapped in a hellhole-ish war between aliens and humans. That's happening in the, like, I had factions and I was like, this is what's going on in the South. We're never going to need it because they're never going to get down there. And then they accidentally misjumped down there. And I was like, well, okay, well, you're in a war now. No more trading. We're done trading.
Oh, so they ruined factions. Okay.
The show ended with that. Their crew had replaced their captain with a psychic plant. Plant was incapable of doing anything but psychically encouraging them to do things. And they thought since he was so good at encouraging them to do whatever they were already doing, they liked him. So
there's a couple of the questions that I had as a group, because there's of course certain things that it would be useful if at least one of us were tangentially capable of doing. One of them
something
that came to
combat related. Any one of us doing something with combat.
I mean, so the way that I want to build my character, I'll be capable of space combat. But I probably I don't plan to buy a gun, for example. So unless we go with a random roll for shell and I end up with like the Omen or something, I'm probably not going to be
I mean, the rules state outright you can pick whatever shell you want to begin with.
Yeah. I don't plan to unless we decide to do something random to be good at ground combat. But we do probably need somebody who can talk to people and negotiate contracts, so we can make good money, not get shafted.
Yeah, if I wound up going with the scholar background, I was figuring that like some level of the like connect or like talk or trade or something like that would be kind of the route I would go, at least for one of the skills for that.
If you are going with the psionic character, do you know what discipline or disciplines you were thinking about?
When I rolled it, I came up with meta psionics, telekinesis, and then I took the psychic training for teleportation.
All right, well that one's weird. Meta psionic is super odd to have with just one psychic in the party. It's not bad. It's just that meta psionicist is weird. It's a psionic who can alter other psionics. It's like the counterspell psionicist.
I also thought of it as like, oh, maybe this character had something like literally like a detective for detecting other psychics, right? Like,
yeah, that's what they're for. Yeah.
Right. So
meta
psionic mix.
I mean, like meta psionicist plus telepath is like the ultimate psychic hunter.
Yeah, telepath. I like. It's interesting for sure, but mechanically, like that's hard to deal with. I don't know.
There is a class upgrade I can buy as an AI to make my quantum core psionic telepathy sensitive.
Okay.
It allows friendly psionicists to affect him.
So you could friendly telepath with your ship. Like there's some really weird rules interactions we could get into. But it seemed like at the get-go, like with how low our hit points are and how deadly the guns are,
avoiding combat,
like, having somebody who can talk us through contracts or de-escalate situations seems like a great long-term survival strategy.
Yeah, so let's make these characters. Although Lunaman, it sounds like you've made your character. So
I mean, I know I plan to roll everything with
oh, okay. Well,
like happy to do it. That I wanted to enjoy the randomness of it.
Yeah,
it's such a fun system to.
Let's do it. Honestly. Let's get started.
All right, let me do my Excel sheet where I've already made my.
While we're doing this, I'm just going to lightly distract people with some background rambling. We need to be thinking about, because again, this is for Rad, what our characters look like, and like how they dress, what style they have. I know that Kane wants a bit of like Aliens and Predator influence with horror, although I'm going to say this real quick for the folks at home. If you don't want to hear about deeply existential, very real horrors that are the only horrors I'm really afraid of in space, take your headset off and I'll wave my hands in front of the screen when you can come back. Number 1, a Carrington event, truly terrifying. And the thing is, it's just a matter of time before it happens. Number 2, Kessler syndrome. Again, basically a mathematical certainty will absolutely happen. And number 3 is, and this one's really bad, it's an observation I had years ago, and I confirmed it with some material science professors at the College of Engineering and Mineral Resources at WVU. When we drill for materials, we have to go further and deeper. We have to use things like fracking, right? Like easy access to materials is beyond us. If we ever suffer anything like a post-apocalypse event, it will be impossible for us to get to space because we simply cannot access, like, once we can no longer use super mining rigs or like transport it across an ocean to a materials processing center, That's it. We're done. We're never going back to space because we're never going to be able to get down to the oil. We're never going to be able to get to fresh iron deposits. There's only so much helium left on our planet. Like, helium is a gas, and if you hit a helium reserve, it just flies up into the air and it leaves the planet. It's so light, it no longer is contained in the atmosphere. If we don't have access to those things, so okay, okay, all the horrible stuff is gone now. So, see, the thing is, I'm not afraid when I watch a movie like Aliens. I'm just like, yes, horror. It doesn't affect me. So I'm going to take a special step just for Kane that I never do, and I will be consulting with a second game master so that my horror stuff is both scary enough and not too frightening. Because when I have shows, I'm like, yeah, I'm not scared of any of this stuff. And then, I talked to my players afterwards and they were like, I was truly terrified the whole time. I was sweating in my seat. The situation was so tense. And I was like, I didn't feel anything. So like, I need someone else to help me get that perfect seat of horror. I think, Dynamis, you're coming off to me like you want a little, space cowboy action, a little, everything's gritty and secondhand. Star Wars Episode 4, not Star Wars Episode 1. Well, you want pod racing, so and the Tatooine part, everything is broken down. It's every other part, A giant silvery shiny ship. I didn't like that part, but Millennium Falcon is the perfect example of something that I think you might see in this, a half put together piece of garbage, barely running, constantly breaking down. I mean, you guys are salvager ships, so
when you started talking about flying and salvaging and stuff, I was thinking very Han Solo and the Falcon Thoughts.
Me too.
So,
especially when he's like, punch it, and then nothing happens.
I was thinking of making the basic frigate. So, like, a free merchant is a very standardized shape of frigate, right? I was thinking of making it like the Expanse, with the cargo hold is at the bottom, and it's like a tower. And then, like, the passenger cabins and, like, the engineering section are all in, like, the bottom third. And then the middle of the ship, where gravity and, like, momentum and all that stuff, inertia, are all at, like, as close to zero as possible, is like the bridge. And then it's like your cabins are above the bridge, and then like weapons, sensors, diagnostics, or a computer room are all at the very front of the ship, and you have to like climb a ladder when you're on the ground to get to the top of the ship. But when you're in 0G, you just float all up and down the ship. Or don't get me wrong, if we want to do Millennium Falcon flat disc-like ships, Star Wars style, that's cool too. This right now, while we're making decisions, is the time to make that. Is there a style of ships you guys want to see?
There are grav generators, right? Like there is like gravity in space in this one. Like,
yeah, you have gravity plates that you can turn on or off. So like it's illegal. It's a war crime illegal to set a gravity generator beyond 1 gravity. Right, so if someone boards your ship and you're like, I'm going to set the gravity to 10 to crush you instantly under your own weight, the ship will be like, I'm sorry, you can't do that unless you like hack into the OS, right? Like it'll just be like, what you're doing is a crime, and I've alerted the authorities that this is wrong.
Prepare time chamber.
I suppose if we wanted to become war criminals, which I don't. I guess it would be helpful to know that your ship can choose to kill people with your AG plates.
Right, but anyone coming onto a ship is going to be aware that that is a possibility, right? Yeah. Like militaries across the sector have basically agreed, like, if you can make it onto the ship and like fight your way to the bridge or the engineering section, like it's time to surrender, right? You don't want to devolve into a partisan war where the ship is basically fighting itself and like people are being flattened into discs.
Could always assume that like anything over 1 winds up ripping things off the ceiling and then
it will. Yeah, like the ship will destroy itself in the process.
Exactly.
Yeah. There are gravity weapons, of course. Like grav tanks are very rare, but they fire gravity cannons that basically make a target compress into itself. There are things like thunder guns or the shear cannon, which literally causes all of your molecules to spread apart. So like your whole body just becomes a gas.
I should do this. I especially liked like one of the last things in the entire book that was mechs, and then one of the last mechs had something called the Finger of God.
Yep, where you just kill the target. Yeah,
you just black hole. Here you go.
I think that's a psionic only weapon though. You have to like be a certain level. You have to already be a very deadly psionic to use it.
Of course, right? I said I wanted someone who's, you know, a tinkerer. Without doing any substitutions, my intelligence is a 6.
Okay. Good thing you got that 14 in your pocket right there.
Absolutely substituting that.
How do you roll in this interface? I have not.
Slash roll. It's exactly like Roll20 actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Has almost all the same.
There you go. About it. Duh.
So something something that I've already read because I plan to be a ship is how ship conflict works. Not necessarily because I'm like super excited about fighting with a sand thrower, but because we need to understand how economy of action works when we're dealing with stuff in space. Each of the major departments, a PC will be the head of that department, and they get to decide what that department does. Mm-hmm. If you're the head of more than one department, you end up with some action economy things, which we'll end up having to deal with unless I commit processing power. And then the skills that you use are going to be dependent on those departments. One of them is the captain. One of them is the bridge crew, which is basically the flight stuff. One of them is communications, which is basically electronic warfare if we end up having to fight. One of them is basically engineering. They get a bunch of the fixed stuff actions that they can take. And there is an extra category that has just some general actions for people that aren't one of those department heads. So if you have a larger party, they have something to do.
Yeah, I did notice the larger your party, the more like points you can get by the people who just do nothing but give you points.
Right. And that's one of those things where, like, in theory, the way the rules are written, and one of the many reasons I'm sure AI is banned in most groups is I could, in theory, just do that like 30 times. I have no intention of being a jackass, though.
Yeah, I think we can also like technically hire a crew that maybe can fill some of those roles.
Yes.
Needed, or
So depending on how technical your AI friend wants to be, you have 3 passenger rooms for spare crew members, and then if he wants to have boundaries and you want to respect those boundaries, he doesn't technically need a room or oxygen or heat or food. So you do technically have a 4th room you could use if he doesn't want to take it. But again, that would be extremely demeaning depending on what level of self-awareness and respect it has.
I was thinking that he would want a room. I'm going to play the character. I plan to play the character kind of alien. There's going to be, I mean, he's a person. He's programmed to have like emotions and thoughts and all of that. And the breaking lets him forget things and whatnot, like a normal person. But some of that is like he might feel those things, but those differences in experiences are what makes him seem kind of alien in his approach to things. So I think he'll have a room, but it'll be a really weird room.
So the main thing that breaking does is allow AI to hold contradictory concepts in their mind. So, like for Draco, the problem was along the lines he could no longer hold contradictory concepts. So the chain of events started. He was like, the penalty for killing someone, murder, is execution. And then he goes, well, I have carried out that penalty. The executioner killed him. It's time to kill the executioner because he committed murder.
Right.
And then he sends another executioner and he's like, well, that's a problem. I have to kill another executioner because he just killed somebody. Right? Like, he could no longer separate those two concepts. But, you know, other smaller contradictions that we humans have every day in our lives. Unbraked AIs are no longer allowed to have them. They have pure, perfect logic, which also drives them to what we would consider insanity.
Yeah, I do think he will take one of the rooms, and it'll
Good.
be weird.
Good.
Like he'll probably have like a charging station or a mounting station for his armature in there, but otherwise, like it's not going to be like a regular, oh, here's the bed and the desk and whatnot. There'll just be like weird stuff in the room that he's been collecting to experience.
Ah, the 7 of 9 experience, of course.
I mean, his function was built around the perception of the galaxy as a ship instead of as a bipedal person.
I'm so glad you said that. I can't wait for us to have some conversations about ethics and intelligence, sapience and sentience. I have some thoughts I've already written out. What the heck are you doing here, Ludeman? I don't
understand the interface.
I don't understand what you've done here. What is 10 triple line dash?
I don't know what that means.
What are you rolling to get these results?
I'm looking at my character sheet and I was like, wait, so I rolled the stats individually. Then I realized maybe I was supposed to hit this other button.
No, you did that correctly. And then you fill the stats in on the stats thing.
I did that.
Yep.
And then there's 8 health down there. And I was like, oh, okay, let me click that. And then it started doing those rolls over there. And I was like, wait, what did those mean? It's only 1d6, right? To roll for your health.
Yeah, I think you'd better roll it manually. So these sheets are not well thought of, by the way. We may not
health at the end though. Yeah, do your skills and stuff first, right?
Yeah, we may not use these for rolling or anything. It'll just be for holding our stuff in place because some people say that these are not good.
The dice have spoken, and I think I'm our face.
All right. I mean, that
what you got
solidly makes you more Han Solo.
I have connect, know, and trade, and I get to pick one more of anything I want.
Okay.
Those are great. And then you can do your 14 and pick your skills for like fix and piloting.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're gonna want probably fix for sure.
I think I want fix. So that'll be the one I get to choose.
The other big thing to talk about is starting focus.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think that's the biggest decision by far.
Because like if you want to be like if you want to primarily be like a fixing pilot with a mouth, there's like
talk my way out of all. It's basically Han Solo. Talk my way out of all the trouble I keep getting into.
I mean, there's the skill expertise thing you can get. So you can pick piloting to make it less dangerous to be doing these jumps.
That's true. There are folk that give you,
or you could just go straight up and pick Starfare, get a free rank of piloting, and as long as the difficulty's 10 or lower, just not even risk it in the first place.
So I guess I think that's probably worth talking through. Like how much as the AI of your own ship, right? How much did you want to pilot your ship? I agree. Makes sense for someone to have it.
Like I said, I wanted to be capable of doing all the stuff on the ship, but spreading out like that means that anybody who wants to come in and do a thing will be better. So like right now, unless I make changes, which are totally in the realm of things, I've got a 0 in pilot because I have a 0 in a bunch of stuff. The only thing I'm really focusing in right now is program. And that's just because of some of the unique things that you can do as an AI with interacting with other computers.
Let me reread the classes real quick because I felt like reading it. I thought going partial warrior, partial expert seemed far more advantageous than full.
You get 3 focuses if you do that.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good.
Which an AI can't do. It's just like how there's, you can go like pure expert, half something else.
Yes.
AI has full AI and half AI, half something else. But if you do that, you get your programs, your routines, much, much slower. And there's a bunch of them that will never be available to you. And that's another thing, right? Like I won't be getting a bonus to my base attack bonus for being partial warrior or full warrior. So if somebody wanted to go gunner, if somebody wanted to go shoot so they could be good at shooting things, they'll be better at gunnery than I am even if I tried to build really hard into it, which I'm not.
I feel like you're not selling yourself as good at anything.
I'm gonna be good at programming, and I can cover down on the stuff. Like if you guys are on the planet and you need the ship to do something, I can do it. I won't be as good as if you're on it. That's kind of where I imagine this character's interaction with skill gaps will be.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go partial.
Okay.
Expert and warrior.
And get 3 foci.
Honestly, the main reason for that is if you've watched Solaris Knights, you know I forget about rerolls and forget lots of things. And so if I don't have the rerolls to have, I can't forget them.
I guess so, yeah.
Understandable.
And the other big decision to make is my armature.
We also have 2 more big decisions to make. We haven't discussed it all yet. The name of the show and the name of the ship. I pre-named the ship the Yard Ship class RLC because I made a standard class for salvager ships, and then I was like, I will name them after well-known ship graveyards, and RLC is pretty high up there in the list of known ship graveyards. I don't know if you want to be in a ship called the RLC, however.
Named after a graveyard. What
I mean, I feel like coming up with a cool name for the ship will depend on the philosophy we decide to go with.
And then we need a name for the show, which was either going to be the name of the ship, not the RLC, or like Salvagers or Yard Ship or something. I just hadn't decided on it yet. What sounded cool? I know you guys wanted to maybe think about Mimi Solaris Knights references. I didn't know if we wanted. So no pure Stars Without Numbers new viewers will understand any of them. Just remember that. But if you have an idea, I'm willing to hear it.
Okay.
I mean, what kind of ship were we thinking of? Did we want to do the sort of
the pre-made yard ship?
Well, I was thinking that like the structure. Like what's the feel? Did we want to have the
YT class freighter
or more of the YT type thing?
You want Mixtagram to be the social media of the future?
Mixtas.
That might be like a particular culture that's on one particular planet.
It's on Thor for sure. Yeah. The mega world.
For character creation though, so do you know, as you wound up getting like a lot of the like social skills, should I still be going scholar and rolling in that table? Like there's fix and stuff in there and whatnot.
So
like,
I rolled my background randomly and I got
okay.
The one I can't pronounce, so I won't say it.
The one you can't pronounce?
What? Dilettante?
Dilettante?
Dilettante. It just means that you're a kid with a trust fund.
Fancy boy.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm Kane's character from Solaris Knights. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. He absolutely would have been a dilettante, and he ended the way a dilettante would have as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then I just rolled D8 3 times to get the other thing. So I didn't really pick any of them. I was just like, let the dice decide.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, oh man, okay, maybe I should roll the background and let it just go.
D20 it up.
Let it ride, huh? Okay.
All right, let's do it.
What do you got?
Oh wait, that's right. I can roll it in though.
I was like, wait, that sounded like a real dice.
I know, I have them on my desk.
I have a pile of dice on my desk. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's like the way I fiddle while I'm sitting there thinking. Okay, 8.
You are a noble.
Sure is scholar, if I remember correctly.
It's noble, actually.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right. Perfect.
All right. So a noble and a dilettante.
All right.
So you both potentially came from well means.
So you think I have a lot of money, but
you've certainly lived that lifestyle before you went to space.
Yes. This changes things a little bit.
Yeah. Where you're from now matters a whole lot more.
Yeah.
Did we have any?
That gives me lead by default.
Do we have any particular requests or thoughts on my armature?
I think synth is so. If you take
a lot of what I do off the ship and some of what I can do on the ship,
I think that synth is the only one that will allow you to remain hidden, right? Any other armature will immediately reveal you for what you are, which is a true AI.
Yep.
So if you don't want to reveal yourself to the people of the sector, synth is pretty much the only option. That's all I have to say. What frame you choose will definitely predetermine how people view you. As I've said, if you show up in an omen, people are going to be like, okay, he's like a scary ghost murderer. Like, you don't show up wearing a frame like that and just be like, hello, I'm here to negotiate.
I'm here to provide medical relief. I'm here to end your suffering.
Well, that is technically something you can do in an omen.
But I didn't know if either of you had any thoughts on it, because a lot of the other ones are specifically built for different tasks. The angel gets medical supplies for free that it just produces internally, so it's a walking doctor box. The box shell, the way that they described it, it felt very chappy. And it's just tough to break. It's otherwise very generic. I'm not interested in the Falcon. It seems neat, but it doesn't. It's a flying disc with arms on it. The Jack is the maintenance shell. It's got toolkits built into it. The Omen is the murder bot. It comes with a built-in unlimited ammo plasma cannon and stuff. It's ridiculous. The Sledge is a giant industrial bot. It's even been described as being shaped as things like a giant robo gorilla. And the Synth looks like a person. It has to take either a detailed medical examination or significant damage to reveal that it is not just a person.
I mean, it sounds like synth seems to make the most sense. I didn't read the descriptions in all these, so I'm basing it entirely off of what you just said.
Yeah, I mean for your background, like, well, not background, your goals and kind of like the early story that you want to start with, I think the synth, like that sort of ability to fly under the radar, does make the most sense.
I agree.
I did take Seafarer. Yeah, we're only staying on the water for the boats.
I also think another benefit of the synth is that it will make the interactions that you guys have with people less complicated.
Yeah.
So sorry, you did take Starfarer?
Yes.
Okay, now
right.
It's not that you might never fail a spike jump, but it will be nearly impossible.
Keep us on course. Well,
does partial expert get the reroll still?
No. You can get the bonus skill points.
Well,
which is still nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
But doing a partial of both, you'll get the giant health pool. You'll be a little bit more accurate. You'll get the extra skill skill point every level.
Well, being spoiled rich boy, it makes even more sense. I need to make an attempt at piloting, so I wanted that pilot point.
And I mean, you got 3 foci too, so you could. Yeah. I mean, at the very beginning, you could start out with level 2 in Starfarer, or you could get level 1 in 3 different things. Because the warrior one has to be a fighty one, but your regular one for existing.
Yeah, the other 2.
I mean, you can for the focus, just not for skills.
Is that right?
I mean, even in their example thing, they're like, this person could have chosen to do Sniper 2, but instead they wanted to pick up this other thing or something, if I remember right.
Wow. Okay.
So for the skills I rolled, I wound up with Connect, Lead, and Notice, and what was the other one? No? Yeah. And all those are just at zeros.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So now I guess I think I'm leaning more towards the psychic here. But I'm open to other options. I mean, we kind of need to cover some bases. So like that kind of limits, it limits the number of skills that I'll get.
Well, I mean, for stuff that we have right now, right? We have a Starfarer, so we can jump safely, which means you're probably also going to be buying into piloting, right?
Me? Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a pilot. Between the two of you, we've got face covered. So we can do our contract negotiations. We can try to de-escalate so we don't get blown up. Get information from people. So that's covered. Part of your concept also for your dilettante was fixing stuff, right?
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt Ludeman, but I was thinking Tinkerer, because then depending how many mods we want to do, it doubles the number I can maintain. Which is
some of the mods are really good.
Yeah. And so I thought that sounded kind of cool, but
yeah, I like that. I think it fits your goals, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, we've covered a lot.
Yes. Are we good to keep going? AP, didn't you have a hard stop at 9? You are on mute.
We are. I asked Cotton and Ponder for a time extension here. If we have our characters loosely done, let's talk about who they are. You know, I think your home planet for our 2 human cast members will probably influence your look heavily. You know, we talked about sources, obviously Aliens, Predator, Andromeda, but also like Outlaw Star, Cowboy Bebop, Firefly, except one of us hasn't seen it and should be shamed forever and ever. And it's the one person whose character clearly seems like a Firefly character.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm a Southern cowboy dilettante. I'm just gonna let me fluff my tailcoats out before I take my jacket off and become a mechanic, using my suspenders to hold my shirt in place. Giant ratchet on the engine.
Rad, there's my description right there.
It's like if what was Jewel Stace's character's name? The engineer?
Kaylee.
It's like if Kaylee and Simon had a baby. That would be Dunamis's character for sure. I'm a fancy man, suspender stepping mechanic.
The other thing that we don't quite have is anyone doing medical.
Your ship has an auto doctor, as long as you're content with that.
As long as we're close to the ship and someone can carry.
I mean, the way to get around medical is to have your psychic be a biopsionicist, which alleviates so many concerns.
That's true.
He can bring people back to life.
Like cheating, though. I don't know.
If you want to be cheating, you play a precog. For sure, 100%.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I want to avoid it. It just feels like, I don't know, it's fun. I mean, there's some interesting things you can do with it. I've done the divination wizard, right? Once you're like before that.
I mean, precog biopsionicist is the character that is like a warrior, nearly impossible to kill, but without the ability to just dodge one whole damage every day.
Yeah, instead you go, I'm just not going to go in there. The next 60 seconds.
That is one of the weakest powers they have. They have all sorts of crazy shit where they're like, I'm just going to ask you a question, GM, and you are forced to answer it. What happens?
Now, I will say, as we level up, the AI does kind of get some of that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there's one, I mean, it's a while down the road where I go, hey, if there's any way that Sherlock Holmes could have come up with some kind of answer, I don't need to know how I came to that conclusion, but I come to it. Here's my question.
Yeah.
And there's one, the other reason I wanted to stay true AI is because there's a fun one where it comes back to my turn and I go, you know what? I think that whole last turn was just a predictive analysis I did. It didn't happen. Hey guys, I've analyzed the situation. We really don't want to do those things we just did.
You just hit the rewind button.
Yeah. So it's limited. It's not, as much, but there is some of that funny stuff. But yeah, I mean, if we want to just get by on an auto dock and hope it survives this, I suppose we can, but that's really, do you two want to put your lives in the hands of an auto dock?
So I had forgotten even after we pick the focus, you even get another skill after that. So we could,
there's
one of those extra. There's a lot of skills you get up front. For some reason, I thought it was.
This is in Revised. There's a lot more skills. There's like almost twice as many skills as in the original game. There's a lot of skills
for being a cowboy. I think I won't take punch or melee. I'm just gonna take a gunman focus, and that'll get me some shoot.
Amazing. Well, there's your damage dealer right there.
Yeah. Congrats, you're the fighty one.
Got your gunslinger.
Shoot from there.
Yeah, shoot bonus. You can quick draw a ranged weapon.
Yeah, basically. If I could create the Chewbacca like a laser crossbow.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're taking Tinker, why not?
Sure.
How do I pick psychic skills in this?
Rad is dying because he knows that that's called a bowcaster, but he's watching this in the future, so.
It, but I didn't want
It's, honestly, it's really fun watching Dunamis not know references.
Watch a lot of TV and shows.
Sci-fi, yeah.
Although Star Wars, admittedly, I've seen. I just do they call it that in the movie somewhere?
The bowcaster? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they really?
It's called a Wookiee bowcaster, yeah.
Yeah, but no, I know it is. But like in the movies, in the original trilogy, I don't know if they ever actually say that, right?
Well, those of us that played all the games and read all the books, we know. We know.
That, right? Like...
All right, I'm looking for bowcaster references canon. It is called that in Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope.
Damn.
Yep, literally the absolute first movie.
So there's some cool stuff with program and AI interactions. One of the things is once we make level 3, unless I'm trying to hack off against another true AI, I just succeed at hacking things.
That's not bad.
Jeez.
So, Dunamis, you don't know what planet your homeworld is, right? Like you got orphaned and you were sent to Thord.
Yes. That's basic principle. I'm going to change it now to something like my parents sent me off because they're rich to go to a special schooling. I dropped out and did scrapping.
Okay. All right. So let me know what planet you're from so we can talk about cultures, languages, all that stuff. All of you also speak Mandate, which is the universal language of the Terran Mandate. And then whatever your homeworld's common languages are, you can pick one of them. And I think if you have a high enough intelligence score, you get more languages.
I think I remember reading something about that.
Yep. Did we decide on an armature for you? For your frame?
I'm going to go with the synth.
Okay. What do you look like so that Radasaurus can draw you? Do you bleed milk?
We're going to find out, aren't we?
No, you do. You absolutely do. 100%. We're going to keep that canon. If you take a big enough wound, there's not blood that comes out. It's like a white milky liquid. You know, when I say that, I don't mean like you were grazed or you like you got like a paper cut. I mean like you get stabbed and
nice. Max health.
That does mean I can put my physical stats in now.
It does. And Ludeman.
Find the psychic skills in here.
Oh. I mean, psychic doesn't have a skill. Like the psionis, the discipline is the skill.
Right. It's just, yeah, the UI on here. I'm not finding it.
Oh, you mean on your character sheet?
Yeah. It's something I can worry about later. Like,
yeah, I'm not. Again, these character sheets are not very well thought of.
Yeah, don't worry about it. In terms of like, if I'm gonna go with the psychic, I feel like going with the Psionic Authority, their home system. So that's Lita, right?
Yeah. So you were born on planet then.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. The only language you can learn is American English. It's a planet with 1 million people on it, guys. What do you want from me?
Fair enough.
Like, there's literally not enough people to support a multicultural effort there. They are Texan capybara farmers and subsistence hunters and farmers, ranchers that also have the only known psionic academy.
Base armor class.
And I have a pretty good school system.
Yeah. And so his background is that he's a noble. So he's whatever that plan.
Well, given that you're a psionic,
right?
You're probably like a legacy student, right? Like your parent or parents could have been psionics. Maybe even one of them's like a professor or like a dean of the school.
As the founder, right? Like,
oh, look at this guy right here setting such high. I mean, I can't wait to hear about how your last name has the 6th after it.
Yeah, of course.
Charles Winnebago Xavier the 6th. That's your service.
Winnebago. Meaning lost to time.
It's very important to the ranching culture of Lita, however. The concept of the Winnebago. A masterful vehicle capable of far travel. A tent all on its own.
I feel like the you know, I'm gonna do random here because it doesn't really matter.
Okay, so we definitely don't need to worry about you being a wild psyker.
Well, the die has spoken.
Yeah.
The physical personification of my character looks female.
Okay.
I figure when you guys
Her name is Rami.
No. I think the initial appearance when discovered was in like a mandate type Navy uniform with a bunch of Imago Dei stuff on it, and since then has changed the clothing appearance of the hologram avatar in the synth to match something that the AI has deemed as current and cultural or whatever. So it probably looks a little bit zany, but otherwise tries to maintain a very organized and clean look.
Okay. Did you say you were also a telekinetic Ludeman?
Yeah.
Okay, you don't need to worry then about there only being one combat character, because telekinetic armory means that you are also an incredibly good shooter.
It's not bad.
You can make psionic versions of any weapon that you've seen, and you shoot at it with your psionic stats.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
You can also create psionic armor over yourself.
Nice.
Yes. I had a telekinetic armory psionic once, and I was just like, oh, hey, you're a warrior? I just killed a whole room full of people. You want to maybe surrender, buddy?
For the scrapper part too, right? Because you can, like,
yeah,
imagine manipulating all the objects in space, and
yeah, like it would be very easy for you to like pull hull plates off in zero gravity, and like, well, I mean, so for the most part, right? Like, you got to tractor beam it into the, you know, like you probably help pull it off, and then the tractor beams help guide it into the cargo bay, right? And then once it's there, the tractor beams are an external thing; they don't work inside anymore. So you probably help like guide things around and get it all locked up on pallets. Pallets, the universal thing that still exists, which are awesome. Not using pallets is very foolish.
I think, and this could probably be fun for Rad. Because the hologram thing can change. I don't necessarily think that the synth and the hologram have to look the same.
All right, now you listen. I paid for 3 characters. You gotta.
Okay, never mind.
How does that make it easier? Is it like one on the shoulder or the synth?
Well,
oh man,
easier, but more fun.
I wonder if
they're having the same conversation with 2 different faces, and you're like, "Oh God, what is this?"
I like that idea. We'll see if Rad wants to throw that in as extra. I'm not going to force him though.
What's the like uniform of the Psionic Academy?
I don't think they have one. Okay. I mean, I've imagined them as the like Luke Skywalker Academy from the Book of Boba Fett, where it's like all outdoors, like in the woods with nature. It's a TL1 planet. The people that live here, the highest level of technology they have is a bolt action rifle. That's the most advanced piece of technology choice, right? On the planet.
That's what I remember seeing.
Sorry?
That was by choice, right? Like
Yeah, the people that live on Lita respect what happened during the Scream, and like the locals are like, technology like destroyed this planet. Like, we're gonna let nature heal. And the Psionic Authority is like, good, keep thinking that. Technology is bad, psychic's good. Good. I mean, they're telepaths, and they're, you know, like,
and there I am sitting at the top of that society.
in the wake of the Scream, I'm just gonna be honest with you, Psionic Authority heavily influenced the government of the planet until they became the government of the planet. So, you know, like they live in a pre-medieval society for the most part. Not like government wise, but like culturally, you know, people have houses made out, it's like hobbit holes essentially, you know, their furniture is made out of wood instead of advanced TL4 super plastics and stuff like that. You know, they don't use aluminum regularly. They don't have electricity. They cattle drive, they chuck wagon, you know, they cook their own food. They don't use like instant soy paste in a refresher. You know, their hot water tanks are heated by the sun, you know, and they're mounted on the roof to get the rainwater. They're like a resourceful, rugged people. And when I realized that from their tags, I was like, this is Space Texas for sure. Like, these are people who have willingly chosen to live this way because they're respecting the old ways and they don't want to meet the same fate that already happened, which is where psychics and technology destroyed everything. And the psionic authority, technology is a threat to psionics, right? Like, psionics that don't, when people don't have TL4 tech, psionics are the most ultimately powerful thing possible, right? They can teleport, they can hover around, they can create weapons with their minds, they can instantly heal people of cancer just by touching them, right? Technology that does that makes them less special. So everyone that's lower technology level than them is good for them. Okay. But what kind of Texan are you? You know what I mean? Like, are you the kind of squirrely oil driller, kind of shorter guy with the square jaw and a huge beard, and just like, that's right?
This guy's more like the Keep Austin Weird type, right? Like,
I don't know what that is, but let's look it up. Keith Austin. The Oklahoma State Senator?
It's like hippies and aliens and like, you know, like
okay, yeah,
music
all right,
shows, festivals, like, but and that's kind of I think the thing that drives him away from Planet, right? And from that area. That's kind of,
so you don't dress like you're from Lita. You're like you're an independent man. You do your own thing.
Right. Yeah. And that's sort of, yeah, exactly that. Sort of the rejection, right? Because if he is the legacy, sort of it's that like rebellion against his family then, you know.
Perfect. Okay. I'm sure Rad will have some questions.
Suggestion.
Yeah? Of where you're originally from?
Yes.
Yeah.
Midipal?
Yeah, it's interesting because I actually wanted to start the campaign on Midipal. Midipile.
I am so good at pronunciation.
So that's where the Federative Principality of Robinson is from, led by Princess Robinson. It's where it's basically the hotbed of like industry. So there's like a huge amount of spike drive mineral materials that were recently discovered here. What my thought is that the local government's taking advantage of the data that you sold them from our AI friend ship and using that to help advance their local industry, which is why they're TL4 plus, which is like being between TL4 and 5. Is like you sold them that data and they offered you a frame for your AI to use and helped pay for part of your ship costs, because you will start like still heavily in debt. But now you have a friend in the government. Probably you have like don't call the princess, call me the prime minister, and I'll take like one time I'll get you out of a problem. That sort of thing.
Connected on the planet that I'm from.
So you were from Midipile in the Alfred system. You traveled to Thord in order to become a hyperboat racer, and now you're like, well, I need money.
I ran out of money, Daddy.
Yeah, you ran out of the trust fund, and now you need parts for a hyperboat. So you've joined a salvaging crew.
I like it.
Turns out you're pretty good at flying. Here is a question I have for our two human characters. Do either of you already own a Capybara Maximus? that you keep on the ship?
I would like to see.
Like, did you bring your did you bring your horses with you? So Firefly viewers know that, like, in that universe, it's totally normal to just ride a horse off of a ship. Because, like, for some reason, like, gasoline and ground vehicles aren't a thing in Firefly. There's, like, hover cars if you're on an advanced planet, but most people just ride horses everywhere.
How long do these things live, right? Like, they're pretty smart. I know that, but, like, what's
like 30, 40 years, I would think.
Right, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, if, like,
did you raise one? Like, is this the original one you were given as a child?
Authority give you one to take care of. So yeah, I think
this is great.
Do you also have one, Rich Boy?
No.
Okay. So we have a fourth crew member who takes up a room and requires food, water, oxygen.
They take up Kane's, what would have been his food and water, right? So
that's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Three crew members.
I don't think I will go through the effort of pretending to eat and drink with you guys.
The synth just comes and
It
sits
just
down,
seems illogical.
immediately stands up.
Do you
and
try to
leaves.
cook?
Do I try to what?
Cook.
Why not? I want to participate in this.
It would be an important function as the captain of a ship. If you had passengers, you would need to cook for them.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
It also gives them a.
I've never tasted anything before, so.
Yeah, it gives them a way to participate in the ritual of community eating.
Like
Picturing a synth.
You like
pancakes.
You put a finger in the eggs, and then you taste it, and you're like, sodium levels. Are they too high or too low? I don't know.
The weird conversations of him trying to super
try this.
The quality of cooking.
Describe umami.
I couldn't even describe umami. It's like meat flavor, right? It's protein. Or is it? I don't know anymore. Ever since they changed it from savory, I don't know.
Last time I produced this dish, the salt content was considered to be of a favorable amount, but now you say there's too much. Interesting.
So Kane
is impossible as I added less salt this time.
What do you look like?
I think I think for this appearance, they'll keep a very clean and military looking appearance. But the clothing is going to be a bit strange. Be sort of like a maintenance jumpsuit or something that's like tied around the waist and a flannel shirt or something. Like a combination of people like, what are you doing? Like, what is this? But it's just, I observed this and it was received positively by people around it. This must be a popular pattern. I'll wear this. It'll make me look more normal as I try to learn what's going on here.
Nice.
Interesting. What about, like, how tall are you? Who do you look like?
Let's see.
If there was an actor playing your character, who would they be?
5'6". Because I like rolling for everything.
This son of a gun. You think you can just roll for how tall you are? You're about to get Neil Koibu showing up here being like, roll for hotness.
I stopped character creation at equipment, for the record. I feel like we didn't want to dive into that.
Well, yeah, we'll talk more in the second session 0. Okay, sorry. This is episode -1.
Yeah,
that's right.
wow.
Of the year 2022. Next, we'll have -1 of 2023.
I was considering calling it session I because mathematically I is the square root of -1, which is also -1.
Yeah.
But that would be incredibly complicated, and it's a very bad math joke.
Also, isn't it? It's I for mathematicians, J for engineers.
I have seen people use it as J, but I more often, honestly, I see it as I.
I'm back on my schooling. I don't see it in work at all. So
yeah, like what you learn in school is questionable use.
An actress that played a machine that I thought did really well.
Jerry Ryan.
Alicia Vikander.
Alicia Vikander. I don't know who that
Ex
is.
Machina was a great movie.
Oh, excellent.
That's what you're going for? Okay. She was Tomb Raider, right?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't see Ex Machina, but I did see Tomb Raider. Her husband is Michael Fassbender? That's Magneto, right? He's young, evil Magneto?
Who has also played a robot.
So many robots all at once. All right.
Did a really good job at it too.
Any closing thoughts before I gotta jet off here? Write down any questions you have, problems we haven't solved, because next time we're going to be talking about the ship, cultures, the world, the name of this capybara, and what it looks like. I mean, I need to know whether it's tawny furred or whether it's got, you know, like one leg with white. The horse girls in the audience need to know. White and gray?
No.
Okay.
It sounds like we have decided that the organics would like to trust their lives to an autodoc.
That was decided. Yeah. I could have taken heel.
Let me just say, you probably want to pick up some Lazarus patches then.
Yeah.
So I'll make sure to be. I'll at least be basic at shooting and piloting, and stuff, since you can't gun and pilot at the same time. So there's flexibility for you to choose what you want to do, and I can cover down what you don't.
We'll both be basic at both.
Perfect.
Okay. I will get this out to Rad as soon as I can. I'll get it to Patreon either tomorrow or sometime this week. We come back on January 2nd for session 0 of world building, where we talk about our goals. And probably most importantly, we're going to talk about how we want to do XP, because there are multiple different ways to do XP in the system, and I also have a hybrid, which I'll discuss, of 2 of the ones that are already there. But take a look over it and see if any of them tickle your fancy. Some people may want to have the XP where the amount of money you get determines how much experience you get. The classic 2nd edition the red box Caves of Chaos D&D, where money equals experience.
I'll just up my trade skill.
Gotta have something to trade.
Become much more important.
Yeah, thanks for joining me, friends. We'll work on, names and whole backstories. And actually, I kind of feel like Ludeman is probably pretty set here, although his name probably will not be Charles Winnebago Xavier the 6th.
He shall be the 7th.
I mean, I like Lita, and
for my character.
Probably we're going to be going there. And for me, Lita is amplified by the Cowboy Keith food cooking videos. Like, I was like, what would a TL1 world of like rugged individuals be like? And I'm like, it's Chuck Wagon guy. It's the guy who does the Chuck Wagon recipes. They all love cast iron pots and going hooey. All right, I'm gonna finish wrapping up here. I got Pokemon to play. Thanks for joining me, friends.